So this is the last week of our class. I know, collective, grown, on James. And so we've been kind of just following the sermon series every week, and whatever the topic for the sermon is what we're talking about, which has been fun because David has changed the order of things since he originally sent me the order of what we were going to talk about. So every week it's been like, what are we talking about this week? Okay. And we get to end on maybe the worst one, which is faith and money. It's a really fun topic. So glad we're closing out this series that way. But I'm going to give a little bit of review of what we've kind of talked about each week. The first week we talked a whole lot about integration and the invitation of James being really to integrate all of these parts of ourselves in with our faith. And so our heart and our soul and our mind and our body and all of those things actually working together for our life of faith, and that really is the invitation for us. And then talking about our speech, so our words, what is true is the words really reflect what's in our hearts, but we want our hearts to be at a place that our speech reflects godly things. And so talking about the integration of our words and our hearts and closing the distance between those to make those more authentic and more in line with the Spirit of Christ. And then the next week we talked about the difference in the wisdom of God and the wisdom of the world and how those are a lot of times counter to each other, and we had this long list of things that sometimes we need reminding of what it actually is that we were called to, and what this faith is, because it is so countercultural to what we are, kind of the waters we're swimming in those are very different from what we see in Scripture. And so kind of keeping that in front of ourselves. And then a big piece of that is being peacemakers in the world, and that we talked about really that's one of the things that BAML feels very called to that this wisdom of God helps facilitate us being peacemakers in the world, and that's a big call for us. And then we talked about prayer. So this concept of praying in faith, sometimes we kind of grew up thinking like that means I have to believe that whatever I'm praying for will happen. And that's maybe not what is being said here in James. That praying in faith means that we're trusting God in any outcome, that we're praying for specific things, but we also know that God is trustworthy, and that whatever outcome happens, we know that God is present with us, and we can trust that we can put ourselves in God's hands in that situation, and trusting that He will bring us through that we will be okay. And then we talked about how prayer draws us both towards God and towards community, so towards the other people in our faith community as well. And then last week we talked about suffering, which may be the second worst topic of the series after today. But suffering, we're forced to practice complete trust in God. So it further propels us towards practicing what trust looks like, because we just don't have any other choice. And so there are times that I'm not sure we can learn these things any other way, but to be kind of catapulted into it and have to decide what we're going to trust in, who we're going to trust. So, and in that way, suffering can lead us to spiritual maturity. And so that's kind of our prayer for that. Okay, so any thoughts on that before we move on? It's a really fast overview. So today we're going to be talking about our relationship with money. What does it look like? What does our faith look like? What does that? How does that play out in our relationship with money and possessions, the things we own, the ways we treat other people? So let's just start out asking this question: why is money or possessions or the things we have? Why is that so desirable? Why is that something we chase after? Or
I think oftentimes people think that having money and possessions equals like higher up. What is
okay,
that
yeah,
higher ranking or
yeah,
something.
like moves you up in the world status. Yeah.
I feel like it's a security thing.
Okay, say more about that. It's a security thing.
That, and when you really think about it, it's a false sense of security. But I feel like if we have this, then I know I will be okay, and I feel like we'll be.
Yeah.
And
If
I
I
can
have,
provide for my people.
if I have enough money, then I can deal with whatever comes. you know, because I know at least I have that safety net, right? So it kind of gives us that sense of security. Yeah.
Like Rachel.
We got two at the same time. Here, let's do you first, and then I'll do
Well, it's like Rachel said, take care of your people.
Yeah, yeah, there, and,
Like your
and
kids
which is a
and
good, I mean,
folks.
that comes from a very good place of wanting to provide for the people that have been entrusted to us, and there's a responsibility there that we want, yeah, George.
I think of Fiddler on the Roof, where Teddy had saying, "As if I were rich,"
Uh-huh.
and wanting the desire to have a big house and stairs going up and down, and one is longer than the other, and
Yeah,
stairs to nowhere, and his wife is able to boss all the servants around. And that's how he kind of viewed being rich, you know.
Yeah.
We were this way, but it's not something that's new. It's not. This has been going on for.
that's why James writes about it, because a long time ago.
So,
Yeah, it's not a new
It's
problem.
not a new problem at all.
Yeah. How much money is enough? Like,
Never enough.
more than you have. Like, what is the, I'm like, what is the amount that I would be good with? And it's interesting, it's one of those things that you feel like somehow it just easily just isn't enough. Like it fills in all the spaces. Like if you pour water over a bunch of rocks, like somehow it's just gone.
Mhm.
Like that's sometimes how it feels. Like it will find spaces to go, and then suddenly you feel like you don't have enough anymore.
It's never enough.
It's never enough. Why do you think that is?
Because if you don't have it, if you have it, you spend it, you want more.
Yeah.
Or you're like the water you said, go and fill in the space.
Yeah.
We've got to get this thing filled up.
Yeah.
And then when you have all your toys, then what do you have?
Well, and there's always more. There's always more you can have, right? Yeah.
Leigh, I can't think of the exact term for it, but there's actually a term, and it relates to the desire for money, getting, as a behavioral disorder. And there was actually a
Oh,
term for it.
interesting.
I can't think of it now.
Like a
It's actually-
compulsion almost, like you
Yes.
can't not.
Yes.
Yeah. So the image that I thought of, like, have you ever had that dream where you're running towards a door and you never get there? Like the door is like further and further and further away, and you just can't. Like, that is how that feels to me when I think about it. Like it is so out of reach, but you feel like it's almost there. You feel like you can actually move towards it, but somehow it always keeps getting. What do you think we're really chasing when we're chasing after that? When our focus is on how do I get more money, what are we really chasing?
I think sometimes there's the false belief that it brings happiness, that and so if I have all this, then I will be fulfilled. But as it doesn't ever fulfill you. Nothing fulfills the inside of you with that.
Yeah, Jim.
Power, money.
Power.
Influence.
Power and influence, yeah. And there's some truth to that. You run in different circles with higher status, right? And money gets you there a lot of times. George? Security, yeah. Say more about that.
Not just have enough to retire, or
Yeah.
make all the bills get paid, or
Mm-hmm.
and even if we're not spending a lot, this is, and sometimes I wonder if we just lack faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
That term is called money dysmorphia.
Money
It's just a
dysmorphia.
desire to have more and more and more money dysmorphia.
That is
According to
interesting.
AI.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, and it's not a surprise to me that we're chasing this happiness. Like that is what is being sold to us in all of the advertisements that we see, is like, if you have this thing, if your life looks this way, it promises happiness, right? And so, and there's a part of us that I think is good, that we want good things for our life, and we want to be happy, and we want to put things in place that will make that happen. But is that really the solution? But it's sold to us as the solution, right? What negative impacts can money have on our life and our faith?
Because doing the wrong things or with the wrong people.
Yeah, it can get doing the wrong things to get more money,
Mhm.
or you have more money and it leads you to be around the wrong people or doing the wrong things as a result.
It can become an idol.
It can become an idol. Yeah.
Distraction.
Distraction.
Pride.
Pray, like it
Pride.
impacts our prayer life. No.
Pride.
Pride.
Oh, pride. Yes. Like if you have so much money, like how are you viewing yourself, and how are you viewing other people? Yeah. The money as an idol, I think, is a really interesting thought because of that sense of control and security. And so when you put so much, this is the source of the security that I have, and that's what I'm trusting in. Like, at what point does that become actually who or what you are trusting, rather than God?
Yeah, Paul calls greed idolatry.
Yeah,
So,
for a good reason, probably.
Sometimes, if you have the money, you don't get to get the gift of receiving
Mm-hmm.
whenever you need it from maybe your community or your faith community.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Yeah, if you're in a position of never to need anything, I don't know that that's really the design of how we're made. Any other negative impacts you can think about?
Lead to conflict.
It can lead to
in your
conflict.
relationships, 'cause
Oof.
especially in a marriage. I mean,
Uh-huh.
when you have two people who
Not yours, but other people's.
No, actually, no, not really. No, but it can, because if you've got two people that value it differently,
Mhm.
and you've got somebody that is, if they've got $100 in their checking account, they have $100 to spend,
Mhm.
and somebody that they have that same 100, and they say, well, let's keep that, or let's put it in an account to grow it, or something like that. When they value
Yeah.
it differently, then that's gonna lead to the conflict on what
Yes,
to get with it.
yes. Talk to any estate attorney when somebody dies.
I was gonna just say, it tears families apart. Like, I remember when my grandmother passed, how my family was fighting over, the estate and
Mhm.
what the house should sell for and what we should get, and it just tears
People you never
apart.
thought. You just,
Yeah.
you've always had a good relationship, and
Yeah.
suddenly it is like
It
this
brings
just
out the worst.
it comes out of nowhere. Yes.
that's why it's important to spend your kids in there.
It's important to spend your kids in here. I hope my parents don't watch this class. Oh, you gotta see that. Yeah.
Just thinking of it can lead to godlessness.
Godlessness.
Carelessness.
Yeah. And even in, it does feel like a dramatic example, but in a situation where people are fighting over the will, I mean, you're watching money, the desire for money, like, override the desire for relationship, and how broken that is. And there's times it's a good, you should, to try to work through what's fair. Not that you should not do any of that, but
Well, I was thinking, like our current situation, he got laid off last week, and we've been fighting with, like, the fear of, anxiety of, like, how are we going to keep our home? How are we going to do this? And my children, are like, oh, I don't want to leave. And I remember laying down with Madeline last week and saying, Madeline, stuff is not important. What's important is that we're together. And so in the end, it's, how hard you fight for things and not fight to maintain the relationship and the togetherness.
yeah, because the things you have are not guaranteed, right? So, like, for the relationships are things that can be there no matter what, no matter how much money you have, no matter what your circumstances are. Let's read on. So on your sheet, we're going to turn on the James side. So if you didn't get one, they're floating around somewhere. From James 2, this is verses 1 through 9. My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, must not show favoritism. Suppose a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes also comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, "Here's a good seat for you," but say to the poor man, "You stand there," or "Sit on the floor by my feet," have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my dear brothers and sisters. Has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor. Is it not the rich who are exploiting you? Are they not the ones who are dragging you into court? Are they not the ones who are blaspheming the noble name of him to whom you belong? If you really keep the royal law found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. But if you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers. What stands out to you in this passage as you read it? Favoritism, yeah, which we kind of talked about a little bit with pride and.
The part that has God not chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith? Places around the world right now that are exploding in
Yeah.
Christianity growth are developing countries.
Yes.
The countries that are kind of in the upper tiers of wealth
Yeah.
it's declining.
Yeah.
And I think there's a pretty clear correlation.
Yeah, and then there may be ways that God is moving in my life that I am not able to attribute to God because there's other reasons for that, like other explanations that I could come up with. And sometimes having enough money and having those things is part of that.
The part that says that the rich in faith to inherit the kingdom, and the poor people. So
Yeah.
it still comes to what we discussed this morning. They're saying that if the more money you have, the farther away. Sometimes you drift
Yeah.
away from God.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
don't
interesting.
need God.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
feeling, maybe you don't feel like you need God. 'Cause you have everything you need. Yeah. Mm. Is there anything that bothers you about this passage? Or you find challenging? It's a safe place. I know it's the Bible, but yeah.
Saying the dishonor, he says that the rich exploit. So,
Yeah.
in order to be rich, is it true that the rich exploits?
That's a great question. So he's saying, he's making an observation that at least in this time, I don't know if it happens today, but at that time, the rich were exploiting the poor, which may be how they became rich, right? So is he saying that if you become rich, this is the kind of person you will be? Or is that just sometimes? Or yeah. I think it can lead to that. I think you have to be careful because a lot of times those two things are very connected.
I think it's hard where it says, but if you show favoritism, you sin.
Yeah.
And don't we all do that a little even if it's unconscious?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
It has to be a very conscious effort to not.
I think that is because that's really strong language. And there's not as many things, I think, today. At least when I was growing up, there were a lot of things we were like, this is sin. And we had this whole list, right? That's a really strong word that we don't use as much today, I think. And so to name something like favoritism that I know I am guilty of and probably everybody is challenging. It's really hard to hear.
When you're talking about favoritism, it makes me wonder, I've thought over it in my mind before. Favoritism, okay, now this is talking about money, but there are a lot of other things that makes you prefer.
Jumping ahead.
Yeah. Perfect segue.
I'm glad I can help you.
Yeah, thank you. What kinds of things do we use to categorize and create hierarchies? Because it's not just money, right?
How they're dressed, how they're behaving.
Yeah, behavior, how people are dressed,
I was just thinking personality.
personality.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
You know, you wanna be able to have that chemistry, that
Yeah,
camaraderie.
and you're not going to with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's true. And so how do you manage that?
Do you
How-
prefer one over the
Yeah.
other? And-
Yeah, it's okay to like
Just
some
be
people more than
around.
others.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
just-
so, but-
that's the one thing, how do I say, it? That's my thing.
Uh-huh.
I gotta have chemistry, I gotta,
Yeah.
kinda get along with it, because that's, you probably touch a soft point with favoritism and this,
Uh-huh.
but that's kinda where it comes in with me. It's like, yeah, you just said you don't get along with everybody, you can get along with a lot of people.
Yeah, you can get along with more
Yeah.
people than you think, because
Yeah.
that's what I hear you say, yeah.
How much do they think like us? Or how much like us are they?
Yeah, how much do they agree with what we agree with? Yeah, where do we agree, where do we disagree? Is that, at what point do we feel like they are less than us? Or we're better than because we have a particular opinion? We hang out with particular people, we behave
Sometimes there's
certain way?
stronger personalities in the group, and
Yes.
you tend to, if you're not as strong as a personality, and this person here has this very specific likes and dislikes, then you tend to gravitate to please them so that you can maintain the status quo
Uh-huh.
of the group. And so then that, and it creates.
Yeah, sometimes even, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, but sometimes even you create a hierarchy where you're not at the top.
Mhm.
Like you're actually you feel like someone is better than you. And so then that creates a whole lot of challenges. That was problematic too, right? Yeah.
But I have a question.
Okay.
If you grow let's say carnation flowers, and you have roses by mistake growing among them, right? Would you cut off the roses because that's not what you planted?
Mm.
Or would you let it all grow to see the beauty that each of these brings? That's a question though.
Yeah. It's a great question. Yeah. Like if that's not what you intended, and probably, I mean, in a very nuanced answer, there's probably times maybe but in terms of people, if we're talking about people, yeah, I mean, I think, can we appreciate each person for the uniqueness that they bring, even if that's not what we expected? And maybe there's something beautiful for us to appreciate in that. Yeah.
This may be a hierarchy of a different sort, but for myself, I find myself with my relationships, there'll be those people, with friends, there'll be those friends that I have a good social, we socialize very well indeed. Then there is other friends that I can call upon when times are hard.
Yeah.
That's a different type of hierarchy, I guess, but
Yeah.
I've categorized it that way.
Yeah. And I think what I hear a little bit more in that is these are the people I trust the most. And that I think that's very normal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know.
Well, I say that because
Yeah.
the ones that were had hard times would be those whom I've seen go through challenging times themselves,
Yeah.
or who have walked, in my opinion, walk of faith.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of like, even though I have all these other friends and whatnot, these are the people I see myself walking with.
Yeah.
Those who weather the storms and, who can
Yeah.
talk the talk and walk the walk.
Well, and so what I see in this passage is more of I'm going to consider this person not as good as me because they don't have as much money as I do. Which, like, there's multiple things wrong with that. Can we see everyone as created in the image of God first? And my status in the world really is money is a thing that could be gone tomorrow. And so what am I really basing that on my own value? Because that's dangerous too. If that's the source of the value that I feel like I have and the worth that I feel like I have.
I think, sometimes we make those judgments about wealth on someone else that we have no idea whether or not they really have it or not.
Yeah, yes.
You know,
You
growing
got
up,
credit
our
cards
kids,
today. You can
growing up
pretend
our
like you have a
kids-
lot of money.
growing up, our kids were, always going, why don't we have this type of car, or
Mhm.
a swimming pool in our backyard, or whatever,
Yes.
I'm going,
The kids they went to school with did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
most of those families, the bank owns all that stuff,
Right.
not them.
Ask if they have it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I worked at a bank for many years, and you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you see the credits and the debits coming in, and you would see a very nice car roll into the drive-through and a negative balance. So we have truly no idea
Yeah.
what is happening in people's lives, what they're showing and not showing.
Yeah, even just in your own life, like the dangers of chasing that can get you into a whole lot of trouble, right? And being a good steward with what we have does matter, and not just for our relationships with other people, but also for us. Yeah. So when we create categories and we label people, what is the danger in that?
You're creating an identity,
Okay.
maybe a false identity for somebody, or even yourself, because money shouldn't be your identity,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, you are creating this identity for somebody else that maybe isn't based in truth, or maybe isn't based on something they can control, or is there for any number of reasons.
It's when you put somebody in a box that is less desirable, it allows you to see them as less than created in the image of God, and
Yeah.
it's real easy to then be more harmful to them because they, aren't chosen or valued
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
It just makes it impossible to be Christ to them.
Right. Yeah, I've not seen people in the image of God, and maybe I have less responsibility somehow to that person, to be Christ to them, and somehow we're always not in the box. Like when we create it, somehow we're the one that is nuanced, and there's reasons we do the things we do, and it's understandable, and we have these circumstances, but other people don't get that kind of grace sometimes in our lives, right, George?
In the more serious idea of being labeled someone, you think about the internet and social media,
Yeah.
and someone, is it a revenge factor? You don't fit into us, we're going to degrade you to the point that they go out and commit suicide.
Yeah. Yeah,
And this has
absolutely.
become an issue.
Well, I mean, and social media has shifted so much of this too, because there's so much you could learn about a person without talking to them, and which just wasn't true before. It used to be you actually had to have conversations with people to find out what they believed and how they felt about things, and they were humanized from the beginning, and now we have to work a lot harder to remind ourselves, like, this is a person created in the image of God.
Just kind of tagging on what Clark said, you're using your own values as thing to judge someone else, to put them in that box.
Yes, yes. So this is my own value system, whatever that is. It could be money, it could be political beliefs, it could be behaviors, whatever. If you're using whatever value system you have and then judging someone based on that. That's exactly what James is talking about.
Yeah, I'm going to say something from the Bible. Gideon was grinding meal. When there was war, they were looking for people to go to war. And an angel came to Gideon. And the first greetings that he gave him was, "Greetings, great and mighty warrior." But then Gideon himself didn't even know he was a mighty warrior. Nor is he capable to even go to war. So it comes back to, if we judge somebody, we don't know if the person is God's heart.
Right.
Because the person may be not what we expecting them to look at us. But that person is great and mighty before God.
Yes. And so much of avoiding this is about seeing other people rightly, but also about seeing ourselves rightly and telling the truth about who we are, which is not all bad. This is not like, oh, I'm a terrible person and we're all, no, like there's truth in even in God saying, this is what I know to be true about you. And believing that and knowing that for yourself so that you can believe that and know that about other people also. Yeah.
I hear Mary and Elizabeth both using the words judging, and it really makes me see that when we judge, we are saying we are God.
Yeah.
That we can,
Yeah.
we have that ability that God has, and he told us that, who are you to judge another man's servant? To his own master he stands or falls. You're God now, you can judge this person, all right, you're God. See?
Yeah, so there's almost this movement in this passage from seeing money as God to then when we judge somebody else based on that, we become God. And how dangerous that is.
Well, I was going to, it made me think of a small clip that Max Lucado had written in one of his books, and it was something saying, it was talking about a sweater that was all, beat up and everything else, and that logic says I should get rid of this because it's it's no good. And I think we do that with people sometimes because it's like, how they look or whatever. But that it says, in a system that ranks value of human by figures of his salary or the shape of her legs, let me tell you something. Jesus' plan is a reason for joy. No one is useless to God, no one. And so I think that we oftentimes, as we are doing this, we place that value of what is your value in this society, and if you are not at the status quo, you're not valuable. And in the end, that we are all worthy of belonging and love. And so,
Yeah, just because we were created by God.
mm-hmm.
Only, if we did nothing else, that's deserving of love and belonging and worthiness. Yeah. So someone had mentioned this earlier. Has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? How might being poor cause you to be rich in faith? What's the connection between that part?
There's a PBS documentary that came out a few years back on the black church versus the white church in the 1700s, 1800s in the U.S., and mostly in the South is what they're referring to, but it was talking about how for black people, they would go to church because that was the place where they could fully be their selves, bring themselves fully to a place.
Yeah.
And that was where they saw hope, and that was where they saw, it was a place where what the world was doing to them it was their couple hours where they could be their fully human, fully selves. And the juxtaposition to the white church is when you can be fully yourself everywhere, you don't have to have any hope. So the church doesn't bring that to you because you have it everywhere. You don't need that extra place in this space. And so as a result, that impacts the way that your faith looks. And if you've got it everywhere, you don't need it in the church or in God, but when that's your place for it.
Right, when you have what you need or have what you want, you don't have to look to God for that, right? And that can be true of status, that can be true of your place in the world, it can be true of the amount of money you have. If you feel like you have everything you need and you have that everywhere you go, what are you turning to God for?
When you're stripped of everything, you're not stripped of everything because there's one thing that's steadfast and always consistent. And so then it opens your eyes to self-compassion and understanding and mercy and grace. And so I think that in the end, you being poor can cause you to truly have your eyes open to who is still standing with you, and ultimately God is still.
Yeah, you see when you don't have anything else, you see what is still there, right? And what actually lasts. some of the most generous people I know are people who don't have a lot. And we've seen that at Manna, where people will come in and they say, I came and got food 2 weeks ago and I want to bring some donations. And you're like, this is like, to watch that cycle, that people wanting to help other people because they know what it's like to be in need. I think if you've never been in need, like, it's different. There's things I think.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful
I mean,
to see that.
I like to see the turn, because the turn has got to get faster and faster, because
Yeah.
we all, like, I've always said that the whole premise, like, why let's say the senior citizen community give back to the youth community. I think that has been really lost in the new day and age, as well as like anybody that is anybody can help out, because we're one big family.
Yeah.
And I've always thought you're stuck in one situation or another, just rewind or peel back the onion, because it's a soft spot. Like, I'm always looking for answers and then asking everybody, what's your specialty, to see where we can get this out.
Yeah, well, I
But
mean,
anybody has the gift, and anybody,
Right.
I say, everybody's got a blueprint or a fingerprint. You gotta just figure out what's the wow factor, where you can help with the team.
yeah. Well, and part of what's involved in that too, and we said this earlier, but recognizing you could be or you will be in lots of these situations that other people are in.
Yeah.
And so, recognizing, having empathy, recognizing, like, I've been there, can I help you here? Or someone else has been where I'm at, or I know that in, 20 years, I'm gonna be in this position, and so I wanna help them.
Another thing I want to say is, all too often, I want to be able to help and give back and then, assist. But with me, I kid you not, with all my friends, I always get money requests, and I don't know how that happens. Everybody needs help with the internet or the phone or something.
Yeah,
Why can't I help out with groceries, or help you get to your medical appointment, or help you out get something done at your house or something like that? Like, helping hands is kind of what I'm looking at.
yeah,
But-
and those are challenging situations to have to kind of work through and, discern each one, yeah.
But the monetary thing has always got me. I was like, oh, it's like, what do you say or do?
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer that here.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, each, all of those situations are, it takes kind of that wisdom and discernment to kind of sit with each one of those and figure out what the wise thing is to do. Yeah.
When you said empathy, I think it is so much easier for us to have empathy and give grace when it's something that we've been through.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
And everybody's been through something different, but that really hit
Yeah.
hard. Like, of course I understand this mother that has 7 children, because, I vividly remember being in those
You know what that
situations.
feels
So
like.
she gets all the grace.
Yes.
Because that's
Yes.
what I want.
But if you've never been in that situation, it might be a little harder to be like, why aren't y'all on time? Well, yeah, why are your kids' shoes not matching?
I remember seeing a picture one time.
We picked
There's
up
a song that's talk about easy like a Sunday morning. They must not
No.
have kids and gone to church.
Right. Yeah, when you've been there, you
Yeah.
have a whole lot more empathy and understanding and grace, yeah.
We are talking about riches, and it is God's will that His children will also prosper, and be rich and live a very comfortable life. It is God's will, but the thing about being poor is that God wants our attention fully. And most of the time, those who are rich, as it says, it's very difficult for a rich man to go into the eye of a needle. So that seeking the money make you want to seek more. And when it's making you seek more, it sometimes take you away. So are there some people that are rich but still have goodness in their heart? Yes, there are many people who are rich and still, by the time that God wants them to be so strong in His presence, is not there. But the poor people have that abundant, because they don't have much.
Yeah.
And so all their hopes and their eyes are upon Him. You see, and that's what pleases Him, because that's what He wants. So if there's a rich man that can balance both, being rich and being in the presence of God all the time, then he will also be as part of the inheritance and the promise of the kingdom.
How is humility a piece of all of this? How's humility related to the way that we manage our wealth and our possessions, or our lack of wealth and possessions, and move through the world regardless of our circumstances. What's the role of humility there?
Realizing that you didn't do anything to deserve what you've gotten. That
Yeah.
it's all from God. But
Yeah.
also, you're no better because you have money. You're no
Yeah.
worse because you don't.
There
It
is-
doesn't put value on you.
Yes, there is this, I mean, and I fall into this a lot. I mean, this prevailing thought that if you have a lot, that you must have worked really hard. And that comes from, generations of what we grew up, but that's not necessarily true, right? And it's not true in a lot of places and a lot of times. And the implication to that is if you have less, well, you must not work hard. I think if you have less, a lot of times you're working a whole lot harder, right? There was a great article, there's probably been several articles, but talking about how expensive it is to be poor. Like, if you can only afford to buy what you need for today, and you don't have the money to buy things in bulk that are more expensive, but in the long run, it makes everything cost less, and you have to buy, or you can only get to the convenience store down the road, but you don't have the transportation to go all the way to the grocery store where things would be cheaper. You have to buy one little pack of diapers, which is going to be so much more expensive than, a bigger, over time, the things that you can afford end up costing much, much more, and how much work it takes just to try to survive, which was such an eye-opening thing for me to think about, that actually it takes so much effort and strategizing. And if I had 3 jobs and had to figure out, and I didn't have transportation, I had to, rely on the bus, and I didn't have the freedom of a car, like, how much harder that would actually make my life. And I think it is good for us to think about those things and have to think through, develop that kind of empathy.
I was gonna say this on another point. Remember back, I don't know, it was probably about a year and a half ago when the baby formula was a crisis for those mothers and the people that had to have that type of supply. Like I said in the last comment, it's always stuff that you may need that you don't think of that becomes essential.
Yeah. Right?
That's kind of my whole point
Yeah, absolutely.
across with it beyond.
And when it's essential, that's
Yeah.
when you can't get it. It's really, really tough. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking in humility, that sometimes it's really hard to ask for help.
Yes.
And, I know for me, I feel a lot of shame and guilt to ask for help. And so I just really have to lean in and take that pause of, you know what, I am absolutely worthy of belonging and of that. And
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and we all need to ask for help at times.
Don't be shy, just do it. I got over that side. I had that for the longest time. I just said, during a real essential time, you gotta reach out to the community and reach out to people that have those resources and the tools, because we all gotta work together as a team. And that, at least that's the way I think.
You're stronger as a tribe.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah, that's the way you have to look at it.
Yeah. So I think there's multiple themes that we could kind of go off into lots of different directions in this passage. Here's some I pulled out of it. I'm sure there's more. Do not show favoritism. That one's pretty, we talked about that a lot, but do not show favoritism is a big theme. Naming reality. So, he kind of swaps, like the things that you actually need to be valuing this, the way that people, the strength of their faith and the way that they love God and how they trust God, those things are the things found in the people you're discriminating against. Where he says the poor are rich in faith and the rich are exploiting others. It's almost like he's trying to open their eyes and say, let me show you what is actually true and not the story you're telling. And then there's kind of this piece of self-examination, and the question that came up just for myself is what in me might try to align myself with the rich? What in somebody why would you want to, because that feels like a little bit of what's going on in this passage. You're drawn to the rich and you're elevating the rich because you want to be kind of in with that club, but why? Why are we drawn to that? discrimination actually perpetuates the systemic issues of poverty. If you are continually making somebody else sit over here or separating yourself from them, it's going to be really hard for them to get a leg up and actually move up in the world, right? So even that those systemic things are being, that cycle continues the more that we discriminate against other people, especially in the church, right? And then the impact of wealth and power on our own humility, and then the impact of our humility on those things also. Do any of these land strongly with you, or you saw this in this passage, or you think of something else that came up for you in a different way?
I think this kind of encompasses all of these things, but I found out that my life became a whole lot more interesting when I sat across tables with people that didn't think like me.
Yeah.
Or didn't believe the things that I believe.
Yes.
Because when I surrounded myself with everybody that thought like me, and it was pretty boring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, it makes you a more interesting person too. You have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people.
You learn a lot of things.
Because you can understand
You're constantly
people.
learning.
Yeah, you're learning things.
You see, the shakeup of interests and resources and tools are out there. You just gotta bring the clan and the tribe together, like the teamwork, because that, it becomes interesting, and we all have a helping hand in one way or another.
Right.
So-
Yes, we all have a part to play there.
So, preaching on this text today, and two of the things that I won't mention in the sermon, but that have been in my mind, have been my experience in Honduras this last summer. And being there, it's a home for boys who are orphaned, and they're taken care of and share everything in common. Meals are taken care of. They're playing basketball and soccer all day long with I mean, they were being raised as brothers. And as Brandon and I were coming home, what the experience felt like to me was, this is how human beings actually are supposed to live.
Yeah.
And so like that experience coupled with my favorite Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. I mean you have the contrast between the love of money, what's the guy's name? The bad dude in that movie?
Mr. Potter.
Mr. Potter, there you go. And just completely addicted to money, and that's all he cares about. And George is poor because he cares for people, but what you find out in the end is actually what he's done is create community that supports one another.
Right.
Which is what God has intended. That's the richness that comes from living a life of faith.
Well, and I love your first example because the way that you phrased it, which I won't remember. That this is the way God intended. Like, because it's that they have what they need.
Yeah.
They have enough. Like, that is the goal. Not that your basic needs aren't met. Like, I don't think that's God's design for humans. I also don't think God's design is that we have so much excess that it prevents us from seeing God in our lives.
This discussion made me think of something I haven't thought about before. When I was a little girl, my mother would take me to the country with her family, they were really, really poor. We were too. And so much so that they would hang a dress up at a window for a curtain at night. But anyway, what we would have as a meal that day would be whatever somebody else who lived in our community would bring to them from their farm or whatever it was. They'd bring it, that's my mom would cook. And that's how we believed. They would share whatever they had on their farms or whatever with those who lived in the community.
Yeah.
That's what they would cook for that day.
And I love that you said that, because I think the biggest thing that stood out to me more than anything else when I thought about favoritism and the impact of wealth and money on the way that we can isolate from people is that showing favoritism isolates us from authentic community with one another, and that is the goal. And I think when you have what you need, it does do that. It creates that authentic community because we're able to share those things just like you talked about. And so part of what James is saying is when you do that, when you show favoritism based on status or circumstances, you're working against God's design for the church. And you're fracturing those things that really are designed to work together, and these things should bring you closer together. I love the way that he says this in verse 8. If you really keep the royal law found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. That is the goal. And so anything that keeps us from doing that is something we really need to look hard at, right? I think our relationship with wealth and possessions really matters. And we have like 5 minutes, so I'm thinking of. I think it really matters. I think it is really hard. I almost put this on a slide and I decided I would just say it because I have to think about it a little bit more. But I almost think the only way to make our relationship with money better is to have less of it. For a lot, maybe not everybody here, but it's something I'm wrestling with. It's like, am I actually able to have the relationship with God that I want if I don't make some changes? I don't know. Not bold enough to put it on a slide.
I was just gonna say that I understand that predicaments and situations arise.
Yeah.
And that when you talk about money, you said it earlier, let's not go there with that. But where's the balance and where's the equilibrium? And that's something that, okay, I'm here. I feel really good, but I just want to.
But I think this question, think the reason I put this question up is because I think we have to sit with that. And I think at all different times in our life, we have to sit with how am I impacted by the amount of things that I own? Is there a shift that needs to happen? Maybe, maybe not. You know, maybe at this time in my life, am I allowing it to form me in ways that are not Christ-like? So those are all questions I'm kind of like thinking through for myself.
Well,
Yep, go ahead.
but at the same time, I'm not saying it applies to me, but the excess above what you absolutely need for essentials, you can help others.
Right, and which is scriptural. I mean, that's in scripture too, is saying like, I blessed you so that you can bless other people.
Yeah.
But then there's the hypocrisy of if you do have the excess and you're not doing anything with it. Because that, you know, like that's where it's painful or hurtful to our faith in general. Like, you know, when kids growing up or poor people or whomever look at it and they're like, why won't this church that has this giant building open itself up for shelter? Or why won't they give out baby formula that needs to be given out? You know, you named this that has gone viral of churches in their places of wealth and excess not doing anything.
To support the I love the idea that I will be more generous if I have more money. I question whether that's true for me, right? I want it to be true. I loved this quote just because it speaks to the formation of our spiritual lives in relation to money. Why ask for your daily bread when you own the bakery? If I'm in a position to where I can create the kind of life that I want, then why am I praying that line of the Lord's Prayer? What does that mean? Does that actually mean anything to me?
Because you can only do it because you're blessed with it.
Yeah, and trying to keep that perspective right, I think is so challenging. Okay, so since we're out of time, we'll leave you with these kind of just tangible practices for our relationship with money. Some options, some things you could do. Do a spending fast. Try to not spend anything over what you need for essentials for a certain amount of time. The option with that is you could donate the money you would have spent, so that's a kind of another way to do that. Read through the Lord's Prayer daily, meditate on that, use that kind of as a prayer you say each day. Give an anonymous gift card to someone in need. Spend time considering your offering amount. If you haven't looked at it in a while, like, especially if it's automated, this is something I forget to do because it's just like pulls out just automatically like all of my bills. Like, look at it again, take another, do I need to adjust that? Is that something I could shift? Volunteer at a food pantry or homeless shelter. Live among the poor. Increase your proximity to people in need. I think, if nothing else, and I don't say that because I want you to volunteer for me and I'll never do that, but I really do think that that's formational for us. Pause before purchasing. So maybe you're not ready to do like a full spending fast, but just, I'm not going to buy anything on the day that I want it. Like, I'm going to give it 24 hours to sit with it and see if I just practice that detachment a little bit. Join an advocacy group addressing poverty. If you want to work on more systemic things, there's tons of those out there. And I think I've said this on almost all of the weeks, but the practice of gratitude and contentment are huge. I think if you did nothing else, that is the thing I would say. I think that will change your life, to practice what am I grateful for
Mhm.
every day, developing contentment, and keeping ourselves focused on God. Let me pray for you, and then we'll be done. God, thank you for just your presence with us over the past 6 weeks, and as we've kind of dived into James and your word, and I pray that you will continue to bless all the ways that we continue seeking your presence in our lives and in those around us. And I pray that you will bless our worship this morning and our weeks as well. In the name of Jesus, amen.